How's everybody doing? Good. Take any questions you may have.
Which is it too simplistic to say Braden should just kick off every time, like that first one where he kind of squibbed it down there? Can you just not do that every time? Because it sure looked like it worked pretty well.
Well, I think if that one worked, right? If you turn on the Buffalo game from the other day, they had a vicious wind, they had a holder out there, they kicked one out of bounds, they had to kick into the wind a bunch. So I think as time goes on, they're all going to get a little bit better at some of those trick kicks, if you will, or those placement kicks in the hit zone. So I just think time will tell what people are going to do. And then, the weather's going to change for all of us here sooner or later, and it may change some of the things people do as well.
Is it too early for you to know yet where this is going to go in terms of a trend? I mean, there's been a lot of touchbacks so far with this new rules. Do you feel like that's what we're going to ultimately see, or are you still kind of the jury's out?
Yeah, I'd say the answer is it's too early, and I think every game is going to be different. Every situation that you play in, weather-wise, is going to be different as the year goes on. So I think we got a long road to hoe, and we're just going to deal with what happens this week.
Rich, what did you think of the way Braden kicked? What do you think of his kind of approach? How do you feel about him at this point?
Yeah, on a big stage like that, all the way over there for the first time, we thought he played well. I think he had 8 kicks in the game, went 7 for 8. He came back and hit the re-kick, on the offsides penalty on the PAT, which, he actually missed 2 re-kicks in Tennessee after they took a timeout when he was over there. So we thought he played pretty well. Did some good things on the kickoff. And again, the battery's improving, as we go day by day, getting ready for the next game. So we'll expect him to keep playing well.
What do you think of the way that Matt and, also with Daniel kind of welcomed him in, getting him comfortable as you kind of build that camaraderie, with the operation?
Well, I think those guys are pretty accepting, especially if you got a guy in it, you have the feeling that he's going to be your kicker. And they did a lot of extra work together on the snap, the hold, and giving him the line that he needs and trying to understand where he wants the ball leaned or how he wants it held. So, respect to those 3 guys to work the extra time that they did.
He made that 59-yarder in the preseason. Obviously, that's a strong leg. Does he have like an exceptionally strong leg? I'm not sure if you can categorize it with some of the guys around the league.
Well, again, he's got a strong enough leg. He's done a lot of good things, and he's hit some big balls in practice. We have some wind issues out there to it and behind him, but he's got plenty of leg. So it's just a matter of your contact point and getting it to go where you want it to go on any given kick. Good.
The Colts returner's pretty good. I mean, he's got some speed. What's the challenge with him?
Well, I think they got speed, at both ends with those returners. I think the biggest challenge with them is that guy's come from Notre Dame and first year in the league last year. Their special teams coach. He's blocked 2 punts last year, and he blocked a punt last week. So they've got some exotic looks that we have to protect against, and I think they do a really good job of playing extremely physical. They've got a fast unit, and the ability to block punts is something you have to protect against. And when you do it on a stage like this multiple times in multiple years, it's something you have to prepare for. So that's the biggest challenge we have right now.
Is that more of a troublesome thing early in the season, typically, giving up blocks?
No, I just think it's, again, it's what you do in protection and how you do it in protection and the way you do it in protection to do a good enough job to protect the punter. And if they can exploit something that you're doing wrong that maybe you don't see, but again, I think he's come with a good system, and he's done a good job with it last year, and it continued into the first game of the season this year.
Rich, going back to Braden for a second, I mean, you've been in the league a really long time. How much of kicking success is the mental makeup and the approach that a kicker has, and do you have a feel for kind of how he is in terms of his mental approach?
Well, probably mental approach has a lot to do with everyone's position, right? Regardless of the sport. I listen to a lot of other pro athletes talk after they've done great things, and I've actually listened to Aaron Judge talk a week ago after he hits a big home run, and when he crosses home plate in his mind that it's over, it's on to the next. And I think kickers that we've been around do the same thing. Glory is fleeting, so after you make that kick, you have to get ready to kick off, and what do you do with that? And you have to get ready for the next kick. So that being said, we like Braden's makeup. It's kind of one of the things, I think Goody talked about it, and Byron Storrs' interview with him last year, some of the notes that were made after the interview were about that, about his makeup, his personality, his self-confidence, and his ability to move on from one play to the next. And I think that's what he's shown.
Braden and Matt told us that the specialists are getting together for Thursday night football tonight, and Matt is making pasta in honor of his Italian coordinator. Do you think he's a better pasta maker or a better long snapper?
I can tell you, I will not be eating pasta at anybody's house but my wife's. Good? That's great.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, appreciate it.
It's been more than a week since he's hit a home run, so you're lying.
All right. How's everybody doing?
How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Go ahead.
What did you like? Obviously, you look at the scoreboard and they got a bunch of points and stuff, but what did you like about how you guys played on Friday?
Well, I thought the effort was there. I thought our guys played hard all the way till the end of the game. Obviously, we got off the field on that last possession of the game and forced a field goal rather than, give up a score there on the 1 yard line or wherever they were. I thought we took the ball away well. I mean, that was obviously we talked about that all preseason. To start off, I think it was the first 6 plays. We had 2 takeaways, especially backed up. I think that's what you strive for. And then we had the third, obviously, with Ja intercepting the ball. When they had a chance to score and kind of put the game away, we pick it off and we have a chance to go down and, win the game. And then ultimately, I think we could have had more. In my opinion, 3 takeaways was good. But when you turn on the tape, there should have been more. We had a chance, I thought, at 2 sack fumbles that the ball was right there that I think we could have taken. And then Keyshawn, who I think played a really good game. He's physical, very physical in the run game. I thought he covered well. Had a big hit on the quarterback. He had a sack or close to a sack on the wrap and roll tackle. He had an opportunity to have a pick 6 and change the game. So I like the way we attacked the ball. I like the fact that we were able to get the takeaways. I thought the guys did a really good job in the quarterback run game. I mean, that was a big emphasis, and he'd hurt a lot of people with that. I thought they did a really good job of containing him for most of the game in the run. And I know right now people want to know about the pass rush. Where's the pass rush? Where we were playing a little bit different of a game with the quarterback that we were playing. We were trying to keep him in the pocket, and I think for most of the game we did. And I credit the D-line for that too, because I think you have to be really disciplined to keep a guy like that in the pocket when he's not rolling around and hitting off schedules or running the ball for 20 yards at a pop. I thought we did that well for most of the game. And then at the end, he kind of got away and made some plays with his feet, which was a little bit disappointing. But I thought the D-line did a really good job there. When you look at the run defense as a whole, I thought on first down and on those early downs, I thought there were a lot of 0-yard gains and there were TFLs. And I thought the guys, for the most part, did a really good job there. And then we had some unfortunate misfits and some misalignments and balls that got out on us. And those yards count just as much as, if they have a good play. So I'm not taking that away at all or making any excuses. But there's some really good stuff in the run defense, and there's some stuff we got to clean up. I thought third down we were good. Our numbers, we were able to get off the field on third down. Obviously there's some you'd like back there. But I hope that answers your question.
Philosophically, with the pass rush, I mean, don't you still have, I get that Jalen, his legs are dangerous and you got to keep him contained, but don't you still have to get pressure on him? And do you just assume that some of that's going to be given up when you have to rush him a certain way? How do you view that?
Well, we did. I mean, there's times if you watched, Keyshawn had a free run on one pressure where we hit him as he's throwing the ball. And I was hoping we'd be off the field there. We also sent some other pressures on third down and in passing situations. So they were really calculated. If you're going to rush with 4, you only have 4 guys and you have all those rush lanes, more than 4, where a quarterback can escape. So you got to be really dialed in. Your rush lane's got to be sharp. You got to push the middle. You can't rush past the level of the quarterback or else he's going to step up, which you guys have seen guys fly by all the time and the quarterback get out, especially in certain areas of the field. But I think those pressures in that game were more calculated to really try to condense the pocket and push him up the middle, which we were trying to get pressure. It just wasn't your, maybe you guys saw in camp where it's just going 100 miles an hour, getting upfield and ripping and running, because that guy's going to step up and make you pay. So there were times we took shots and there were times we were calculated. When you're playing a guy who's capable of doing that stuff, you gotta stick and move a little bit there.
come down to just winning your matchups then, up front against their offensive line? If you have a one-on-one or something, does it come down to that?
Well, getting pressure isn't just beating your guy, right? It's all of a sudden RG's coming up the field and he's crushing the pocket. The quarterback's got to step up and throw off time, and that's a pressure, right? But yeah, there's other situations where we get guys in one-on-ones and create those one-on-ones, and we have guys that can win and will win.
You got a lot of playmakers in your secondary, and Keyshawn played really well, so maybe it was hard to do this, but would you like to get 33 on the field? Is there a way to do that at all?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you ask a really good question. And we do believe Evan deserves to play. And I know Evan's had a really good week of practice this week, and I'd anticipate Evan having a role going forward. And I'm excited what he can do. So yeah, we need to have 33 have a role.
Jeff, does Anthony Richardson pose kind of the same challenge as Hurts, and that you have to be careful how you rush him to make sure he doesn't do too much with his feet?
Yeah, talented player, fast, he's big, he's strong. You're going to have the threat of him running the ball on first and second down, so you have to be aware of that. And then he can throw the ball as far as any quarterback I've ever seen in my life. So you got to make sure this isn't a guy who just is a running quarterback. I mean, you saw what he did on those 9 completions last week. It brought him back in the game and almost won him the game. I mean, he's got some serious arm talent. Hasn't played in very many games, right? So he's just going to get better and better with his touch and his accuracy, and I'm sure his timing and rhythm with the wideouts that he's playing with. But he's a talented guy. He's a really good football player.
If I know Cooper had that goof up in the early going, what did you see after that from him?
I saw a guy respond. I saw Coop as a guy who was injured for almost all training camp and unfortunately couldn't play in a preseason game. You know, and he just has minimal practice reps, you know, and you got a really talented young player who you're counting on to be a really good player this season, and you got to play him. And guys are going to make mistakes, right? And hopefully the guys around him and coaches, I can put him in position when we can get him to know exactly what he's doing and get him caught up. But you saw what he was doing when I'm sure you watched the tape after that, and I'm glad we put him back in because he's a strong guy, he's explosive, he can tackle, he's fast. And we just got to get him caught up to speed. We're not getting that time back. You know, it's not happening. So the time is now and limited practice reps in the week. And then we got to get him real live game reps. And we got to all rally around him when he's in. And he has to do his job, right? He's got to study. He's got to be on it in practice. And then he's got to know what he's doing in the game. But he gives us an explosive player that needs to play.
Jeff, you don't need me to make excuses for you. I'm curious, when Don Capers got here in '09, They played their defense a ton. They ran a bunch of their stuff because he knew they needed to do it to be able to do it in the games that counted. So obviously you guys didn't do that in preseason. You didn't show your hand. I'm not saying it's to be expected that it doesn't look exactly how you want, but do you expect after one game now of actually doing it that there should be a big jump in week 2 because you've actually done it in a game together?
Yeah, and look, I'm not going to make any excuses. It wasn't good enough. It wasn't coached good enough. It wasn't executed well enough. And that clearly starts with me. And we will be better than that. And I think we'll get better every single game as we practice and we play and we get those live game reps and we get more practice reps and we learn how to communicate better with each other the more we play with each other, right? And the more we game plan and come up with ideas that we are really good at. I kind of said, we need to figure out, I said this earlier when I stood up here, weeks ago, we need to find out how much we can handle going into a game. We need to find out what we're really good at, and then we need to keep doing those things over and over, and I think you'll see us evolve as we get going and do more and more, right? And I do think you'll see a big jump. I can see it in practice right now. I think we practiced these last 2 days better than we played in the game, and I hope what you'll see is we'll play better this week in the game, and then next Tuesday and Wednesday, I hope we're better in practice than we were in that game. Guys are still learning what they're doing. Guys are learning how to play with one another, communicate with one another, and we got to get it going faster, though. We have to expedite that so when we get on the field Sunday, we're ready to roll. And I think you'll see us tackle better, and I think you'll see us track better, and I think you'll see our pressures hit faster. And I think as we go, we got really good players, and we have a really good staff. And I think when you turn on that tape and you watch it and you're honest with each other and yourself and the players all see it, I think you see some really good stuff, And when you show them that and then you show them the corrections and what we need to be and will be, I think the guys are excited about that. and there needs to be the urgency to do it sooner, right? Because there are no excuses to get it going.
We've talked about maximizing Quay and his athletic gifts. Why is right now the right spot for him in your defense at the Mike?
Well, I think if you watch him play, we call him the Mike, but he's also lining up in different spots. He's involved, if you saw, he's involved in some rush games. We pressured him. There's certain times we put him in man coverage. There's certain times he was in different zone coverages. So whether you call him the Mike or the Will in our defense, we're going to do quite a bit with him to maximize his ability. The Mike and the Will in our system, based on the formation and where we insert people and whether we're in split zone or we come down inside with the safety or outside with their safety, I mean, you could draw up and say he's the Mike, but he's really lined up at the Will. We need that versatility from him, and especially with our safeties and how much they can do. We're asking him to do a bunch of different stuff other than just play your true man-in-the-middle Mike linebacker. Does that make sense?
You see the two that Mike and Will are basically interchangeable?
You'd like for them to be, yeah. Because like I said, as you watch us and we put the safety inside here and we put him outside here, all of a sudden they motion here or trade the tight end here, the Mike becomes the Will, and we're not always just flipping those guys. So they need to be able to understand both, because the offense can change, right? They can go from a 2x2 to a 3x1 by trading the tight end, and all of a sudden he might be in the B gap rather than the front side A gap, and he needs to know what he's doing on the backside too. But I think, again, I know what you're going to see with Quay is the more we play together this season, the more he's going to do and the more comfortable he's going to get. The whole objective to playing in this system is playing fast, right? And I think when you get guys that they're no longer thinking about what they have to do on every play and they're just going, I think you're just going to see more and more out of them. I think Quay did a lot of really good things.
Jeff, you know, I realized it was the Eagles you were playing on their offensive line, but on the double team blocks, do you play that differently if it's a different quarterback because you're trying to keep him in there, or would you like to play the double teams better than you did?
In the run game or the pass game?
Run game.
No, I mean, I think in the run game, I don't think the double teams were an issue in the run game. It's just some of the stuff, we got to hit our gaps faster, right? And their interior O-line is pretty big, right? So some of those tackles got 600-plus pounds on them. We got to take those double teams off, and we got to help those guys out more. So to answer your question, depending on what play you're watching, you might watch a play where you see the double team hang on longer and drive that guy back. Well, was it the linebacker was too slow to get the double team off? Were we not? You know, there could be a whole bunch of different things.
Your defense, not this matters at all, but your defense at Ohio State was like the only team to stop Jonathan Taylor in 2019. But what have you seen from him going into this week?
We stopped him the first time. The second time, he had a pretty nice game too.
50 yards against you, huh?
Yeah,
Anyway.
he did. Good, yeah. Really good player. He's strong, he's fast. He's very patient, he stays square, and you got to bottle him up because he'll bounce out and he'll go and accelerate. I mean, he can hit the home run. He's a physical guy. I think he's a really good player. Really good player. So he will be a challenge. We got to wrap up. We got to get multiple people to the ball. We better be where we're supposed to be, and we better be in the gaps we're supposed to be in, because he'll jump out and make you look silly if you don't.
Two more, please.
You know, Colts had 3 really long pass plays in that game. Is it easy to, not necessarily understand how well Richardson can throw, how deep he can throw a deep ball, or
Did you see the one that he threw at the guy in his face, and it went from like the -18 to the +18 and hit the guy right in stride? I mean, I asked if we could bring out a jugs machine on some pass plays and launch him up. I mean, I don't know many people that can throw the ball that far. And he's a big guy, so he sits in there and takes some hits too. So I got a lot of respect for him. But I mean, those 2 plays that he made, I mean, he hit that, and then he hit the in-breaking, the dig across the field that they ran and scored on. I mean, that thing came out of his hand like 100 miles an hour. I mean, he's talented, really talented. I just think you're also seeing a guy who hasn't played very much football because of his injuries, right? And then he's limited in the preseason, and he goes out and, I mean, he makes some really good plays. And then he made a lot of good plays with his feet, too. I mean, he's strong. You see him run down in the goal line. He's a hard guy to bring down. I mean, he looks like a defensive end.
Hey Jeff, you were around Revis as much as you were, and as great as he was, he didn't always pitch a shutout. What did you think of what Ja did, the good and maybe the not so good on Friday, and where do you kind of think he's trending and how you can use him?
Yeah, I mean, corner's a tough position, and I mean, I've been fortunate to be around two guys who were maybe three potential Hall of Fame guys, and you better have a short memory. I mean, that's a hard position to play. I mean, he's lining up against a really good player we were on the field for almost 75 plays. And, I mean, I thought he had some really good plays. I mean, he almost had 2 picks. It looked like the one guy grabbed his arm, or he's got 2 picks in the game, and one almost changes it, right? I mean, if you asked him, and I'm sure you guys did, he had bad eyes on the double move, and you'd hope our safety would get him down, and that would be a 25-yard gain rather than a 60-whatever-yard gain that it was. But the way he's practiced, the way he came back in this week, the way his attitude, that's the life of an NFL corner. I've got total confidence in him, and I'm excited to see him play again. So I feel the same way I did about Ja before we played that game as I do now, and I'm very glad he's on our team.
The defensive side, when you're going into a week with a backup quarterback, on one hand, no matter who's playing, you don't want to give up first downs and points, but on the other hand, is there more pressure? Is it different when you know, okay, it's a bit of a different week?
I think you gotta ask the guys that question. For us, we're gonna line up every down and do everything we can to stop them and force them to punt. And no matter who lines up at quarterback for us, I'd hope the mindset never changes. I mean, you go in every game with the mindset you're playing the best team in the NFL and the best players in the NFL, and we got to give everything we got and not worry about anything else. We got to take the ball away and give it back to our offense. That's who we have to be, over and over and over. And we got to get off the field on 3rd down, and we got to play better than we did last week. And I can't wait to get back out there. All right, thanks, guys.
Yeah, no, he's done good. There's a little familiarity from his previous place with some of the things we do, so there's some carryover. But yeah, he's been working really hard and just trying to get up to speed as much as possible.
Is the actual play calling in the huddle for him an issue? I mean, I'm sure they call things differently and...
Yeah, that's the biggest thing is just, you're at a different place and you have a different scheme and everything like that. So just trying to learn the verbiage, learn the terminology so that you can communicate to the guys in the huddle what's going on. But he's doing a really good job with it. Not perfect by any means, but every day he's getting better. And yeah, he's been really working hard at it.
Go with one of those wrist things,
Yeah, we always have wristbands too to help them out. So yeah, that'll be definitely a thing. What does he do well? He's got good athleticism, good arm strength. He's got a quick release. So I think all that really helps him out making decisions and things like that and getting the ball out.
When you're evaluating opponents in the early portion of the season, is there a balance of it being a small sample size in terms of what you're looking at in tape, only one game in?
Yeah, there definitely is, because every year, just like offenses put in new things, defenses definitely put in new things too. They may have their foundation, but you always got to see the new players they have, kind of how they play, the different DBs, the different D linemen, how they rush. So yeah, that's definitely a thing as the season gets going. When you have more film to watch, it helps you game plan for sure.
I know Runyon was a little banged up last year, and that was part of the reason for that rotation at right guard.
Mm-hmm.
What's the benefit of doing it with, I know Jordan has missed some time, but with 2 healthy guys, and how do you think it worked out on Friday?
I thought it went okay. Both guys had plays that I'm sure they'd like to have back. They weren't perfect by any means, but they went out there and competed. I wouldn't say either one of them grabbed the job and really said, I'm better than you. It's one of those things I think as the season goes on, maybe we'll evaluate it every game and just see how it goes. But, yeah, I think it's good for Jordan to get out there and play. Being a rookie, anytime you can get that playing experience is very valuable. And there were some really good plays that he had too. So I'm encouraged by what I saw from him for sure. And then Sean, just keeping him involved, keeping him playing. Yeah, all that. I kind of like what we're doing, to be honest with you, just to keep those guys involved and playing.
If one of them does separate themselves, would you like to get to a point where it's just one guy?
Yeah, probably. If one guy's, stands out to be better, I definitely would think that's better for the team. But as of right now, I'm happy with what they're doing.
The biggest difference was with the run offense and what you guys were able to do in the second half of getting Josh into a little bit more of a rhythm.
Yeah, I think as the game kind of progressed, you just saw us do better and better in the run game. Emmanuel obviously had some really good runs too. But that's kind of how the run game goes. You just keep leaning on them and keep leaning on them, and you start popping runs. So I think that's a testament to those guys up front. As the game went along, you're kind of able to find those seams and wear them out, and then Josh hit some big ones, so it was good.
Steno, I don't want to get the Matt LaFleur. Do you want me to just give you the whole game plan? Because I'm not asking that. But you're potentially starting your backup quarterback. I would think that the Colts would think that you guys are going to want to run the football to take the pressure off of him. Probably going to want to load the box. They didn't stop the run very well last week. How do you put together a plan knowing that opponent is going to be anticipating you running the ball effectively or running the ball a lot?
Mm-hmm.
How do you manage to get your run to be effective when you're going to be up against them?
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna see what they do, obviously, and the runs you like that you do well too. And it's just one of those things that, all right, kind of as the game goes, you have to have your answers for whatever they're going to try and do. And I'm not going to be stubborn and pound my head against a wall. If they're giving us things in the pass game, we got to be able to take it, and we got to take advantage of it. We have really good wideouts that can make a lot of plays. So I think as Malik gets more familiar with these guys as the week progresses, he's building that repertoire and that camaraderie with them that, he trusts those guys to go out there and make plays. So I think I'm not going to say, we're just going to run the ball. We're going to take what the defense gives us, and, hopefully that's good enough to beat them.
The way the Eagles played you in the early back, going with the linebackers, shooting gaps and things like that, did that say to you, teams are going to come after your run game before they do anything else? Or was that just a feature of what they do once in a while?
Yeah, no, I mean, what they were doing last week, it was kind of not what we've seen in the past from the Vicks defense. So it was kind of different. But as we got going and we're like, all right, they're playing it like this, I thought we made some really good adjustments. And obviously we had some good results in the run game. So, yeah, we'll just kind of see what happens this week and do the same thing.
In the pass game, you hit quite a few explosives, but on the other hand, it was, I think Jordan was 45% completion at one point in the second half. And
Yeah, I
he
think
50. Yeah, he ended
for
with
the
50.
total. Yeah.
Is there a threshold that, if you're hitting big shots down the field like you were chunk plays, does completion percentage matter? Is there a threshold of efficiency you want anyway to just get the big plays?
Yeah, I think there was a couple drops, and then there was a couple balls where I think Jordan would like to have back. So you put those together, and we make those plays, and we probably win the game, to be honest with you. No, it's one of those things that's just you look at the stats at the end of the game, you're like, oh, wow, we were only 50% completion percentage when you just saw the success that we had throwing the ball in certain situations. So, yeah, we'll kind of just see how that goes from week to week. And if it becomes a problem, we'll have to have an answer for it.
Not an injury question, but is Marshawn Lloyd able to help you out? Is he ready to go?
Yeah, he's been practicing and doing a good job. So hopefully, as the week progresses, he can get in there and play and do all that stuff.
How many other ways can he read the ball, and at what point did you start last year to think, okay, this guy's different, and we can?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think. The second game of the year, was it the Falcons? He scored on a jet sweep to the right on a touchdown, and then right then you're like, okay, this guy's got some juice. He's able to make some plays, make people miss. And, anytime you got a guy like that who's a punt returner or a kick returner, you just got to get that guy some space. And he just has that natural ability to find seams and play fast and make people miss. So that's one thing that, just like his returning ability really gives him that advantage when he gets the ball with a little bit of space.
His size get pigeonholed as slot guys, because I remember Cobb in 14, it wasn't like he just ran routes from the slot, like he was a guy
Yeah.
who could line up outside.
I think if we didn't have the guys we have with, like Dubs and Watson and stuff like that, he would probably be more of an outside wide receiver for us. But, we just are pretty deep, so we just primarily use him in those slot positions. So it's just kind of how it is right now.
The Colts had quite a few guys able to get after the quarterback last week.
Yeah.
That's the challenge of their front.
Yeah, they're a very good front. They do a great job penetrating. They're pretty deep across the board, and I think, you can tell these guys really do they work together in their pick stunts and everything really well. And yeah, it's impressive watching them. They're coached well, and they do a good job, again, with their twists and picks to create seams and get sacks. They're pretty productive. They're a really good group.
You thought of the way that Zach has kind of hit the ground running, despite missing as much time as he did to put together.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised by it. Like, once I saw him, probably the first day he was out there full go when he got back in camp, and I was like, wow, he looks like he hasn't missed a beat. So it was pretty impressive just to see him, just go out there and business as usual, be Zach Tom. So it was cool to see.
Steno, I asked this more as a positive Tucker Kraft question, but there also is the other side of the coin of, the split was 64-17 snap
Yeah.
between him and Luke. Why?
Yeah, that was one thing, like, after the game we looked at, and we definitely don't want that. You know what I mean? As far as we'd like to have it a little more even, so that's one thing we're going to kind of try and keep evened out as the game goes, or as the season goes.
Is there something that, it seems like Tucker took a big jump in, every area of his game, maybe?
Mhm.
Is there something that you need Luke to be doing a little more effectively to even that out?
Yeah, no, I just think we just got to do a better job as coaches managing that, for sure.
Anything else, guys? All right.
Cool, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Steno.